There we are. So you can see how difficult it is to actually see them sometimes. So luckily he was kind of panting a little bit and his movement caught my eye. But you can see that is one hot, full kitty, and it's not even gotten very hot yet. He's going to be suffering a little bit later, but a happy cat nonetheless. He's got that face of contentness. He's just kind of happy that he's got food and he's taking it all. And you can see he's smelling a little bit. You can't still be hungry, so I don't think he's going to go back up into the tree anytime soon, and especially with that hyena lurking so close, I'd imagine he's just going to rest here for a while and wait for the heat of the day to pass and then go up later, much like what we saw yesterday. No one likes me. You want to know if hyenas can climb trees? Nope. And that's why the leopard puts those carcasses up in the trees, so that these hyenas don't get to the food. If he had that on the ground, he would have been muscled off by these hyenas and they would have stolen it from him. So that's why he's put it up there, and it's a really clever tactic that leopards have, and it's a great skill that he's learned from his mom, because some of the other leopards out here tend not to do it. So we know that Shadow is very bad at it. She often leaves carcasses on the ground and they get stolen by hyenas. So it seems as though Hosana has learned his lesson and he's put his carcasses in trees, and that means that he at least can feed off them for quite some time. So he's done very well in that regard. It's quite funny to watch hyenas. You'll be surprised though how high a hyena can jump to get to food. I once saw a female down in the south of the Sabi Sands called Warthog Wallow female, and she had put up a carcass in a tree that you would think would have been safe. It was quite high up. I didn't think there would be really too much worry, and a hyena came along and it jumped very high and it managed to grab onto just the tip of the leg, and that was enough to unseat the carcass and bring it crashing down to the ground. And at that stage Warthog Wallow had walked off to go and fetch her cub, and she came back with the cub to a scene of no food. The hyenas had dragged it all away, and she could see the kind of disbelief in her face as she had hung it perfectly in this branch, and I'm sure she thought it was out of the way of hyenas, but it wasn't. These hyenas jumped probably, I would say, over their body height, that sort of height up into the air, and then stretched fully up. It is actually quite a long way. Sorry, Seb, I'm in the way a little bit here. I'm going to try and reposition Seb so that he doesn't have to shoot over my head, because otherwise I'm going to ruin things for him. I just don't know if we're going to get a good view of him, Seb, but let's try. Joe, you want to know if leopards roar. Joe, leopards, it's not really a roar, more than what we call a saw. So it is a loud sound that is produced that is almost like roaring, but we call it sawing. So it is basically part of the roaring process, and it's why leopards are classified as pardus, which is the roaring cats, or the cats that are able to produce a roar, but we refer to it as sawing rather than roaring. Seb, do you want me to go forward a little bit more? Let's try. No, we'll be alright. It's not too bad, don't worry. Just keep our foot on. There we go. That's as much as I can go, Seb, I think, for now. But you can see he's watching the hyena. The hyena's moving around, so he's just checking to make sure that this hyena hasn't stolen anything from him. Also, you've got to be aware of hyenas as a young male leopard. But it just goes to show, when you have a situation like this with hyena and leopard on the ground, you can see they're both kind of seeing each other, and it's interesting because they're both fairly young individuals, so they know that there's a respect for one another. They're making sure that they're not going after each other, and that they respect the fact that they could get injured, and their main focus is what's in the tree. So they will leave each other alone. It's only if there was carcass on the ground that the hyenas would be quite a danger to Hosana. Shame, my boy, are you full and hot? Toby, you're wondering why the vultures haven't come to eat the carcass from the tree. Quite simply, they probably haven't seen it. It's not easy to see a carcass from above when there's foliage on it, and this particular tree does have foliage, and so it would be very difficult for the vultures to see those legs dangling from underneath the canopy. Remember, their point of view is from above, so it's not like us that is able to see a carcass in a tree from low down like we have with these ones, and they have a little bit harder time of it. They've got to try and actually see it from above. So things like buffalo carcasses and lions, when they kill, they tend to be out in the open and the vultures see them very easily, but things like this in a tree, very difficult for the vultures to see.